Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shavtam Swakatha Kṛṣṇa Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Sruhasatam Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranatai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nanda Kori Vaishnavinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be covering Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 86. Arjuna kidnaps Subhadrā and Kṛṣṇa blesses his devotees. So there are multiple pastimes here in this particular chapter. Last Sunday we covered Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter 85, where Lord Kṛṣṇa instructs Vasudeva and he retrieves back the 6 sons of Devaki, just for, as per her wish, to be able to see her 6 sons just once. And then after that, those 6 sons, the Shadgarbhas, went back to their original position as demigods. Hare Krishna. So we'll cover the very first verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 86, verse 1. Shri Rajo Vacha Brahman Veditum Ichhamaha Swaswaram Ramakrishna Yoho Yatopayeme Vijayo Yamamasita Pitamahi. Shri Rajo Vacha Brahman Veditum Ichhamaha Swasaram Ramakrishna Yoho Yatopayeme Vijayo Yamamasita Pitamahi. Shri Raja Uvacha. The great king Parikshit said, Brahman, O Brahman, Shukdev, Veditum, to know, Ichha Maha, we wish, Swasaram, the sister, Rama Krishna Yoho, of Balram and Krishna, Yatha, how, Upayeme, married, Vijayaha, Arjun, Ya, she who, Mama, my, Asit, was, Pitamahi, the grandmother. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. King Parikshit said, O Brahman, we would like to learn how Arjun married Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna's sister, who was my grandmother. Purport. Parikshit Maharaj turns now to the topic of the marriage of Lord Krishna's sister Subhadrā. In the opinion of Srila Sridhar Swami, King Parikshit's question here follows from the previous narration because Arjun's winning the hand of Subhadrā was just as difficult a feat as Lord Krishna's retrieving the sons of Devaki from the realm of the dead, since Lord Balaram himself opposed Subhadra's marriage to Arjun. So, as we can understand, retrieving someone from death is a great feat. And Lord Krishna, he can perform any feat. So, when he retrieves those 6 sons, Devaki is shocked. And now here, Arjuna is marrying Subhadra, and that particular incident is identified by Srila Sridhar Swami to be equal feat, at the same level as, retrieval of the Sadgarbhas by Lord Krishna. And why is it so? And it's revealed in the purport, because Lord Balaram opposed it. Now my question is, why would Lord Balaram oppose such a nice, arrangement? So there is a very nice description given that Lord Balaram had actually decided to give the hand of his sister in marriage to Duryodhan. Right? So Arjun was not in the picture at this particular time. And how come Lord Balaram was able to decide while everyone else, all the, like Vasudev, Devaki, Lord Krishna and other Vrishnis and Yadus, they were not able to oppose him because Lord Balaram was very affectionate to Subhadra. Subhadra used to live in the palace of Lord Balaram. So her quarters were within the palace of Lord Balaram's palace. And he was very affectionate, so he used to take great care of her. He was very affectionate to her. And so when a brother, and he being the eldest one, means again an elder brother, he was taking care of her, so he took that position to be like her father. And he decided how and who she is going to marry. And during his visit to Kashi earlier, not Kashi means again to another kingdom, to his friend's kingdom, at that time Duryodhana had taken an opportunity earlier to go to Lord Balaram and ask him to teach him how to fight with the club, Gada Yuddha. And so at that time, Lord Balaram had taught him, and he was impressed by Duryodhana's dedication and his skills. So Duryodhana always considered Bhimsen to be his opponent, and Bhim had the strength of 10,000 elephants. Duryodhana didn't have so much strength, so he wanted to be very skillful, and he dedicated himself in learning this art of fighting with the club from Lord Balaram. And with his dedication, he won the heart of Lord Balaram. So sometimes, when you have a very good student, you become benevolently disposed towards that student. And that was the case of Lord Balaram. He was so impressed by Duryodhana that he decided that he would marry his younger sister, who is more dear to him than his life, to Duryodhana, seeing Duryodhana's dedication. So he had decided to do this, and it so happened that Arjun was at Prabhas. He was on a 1-year-long pilgrimage, and he hears about Subhadra's marriage being planned with Duryodhana. And Prabhas happens to be near Dwarka. So again, he was on his 1-year-long pilgrimage, and after 8 months or so, before the arrival of Chaturmasya, when Arjun heard this, he came to Dwarka. And he had not entered the Dwarka, so he asked for Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna came to see Arjun. So all this description is given in Mahabharata, one of the Puranas. And now someone can say, how come Arjun happens to be on a pilgrimage for a year? So we'll also go back in time a little bit to understand how Arjun happened to have gone a year-long pilgrimage. So going back in time, so there are various wonderful lessons, and this is a very adventurous journey Arjun is going to take. It so happened that after Indraprastha was given to the Pandavas, so again in Srimad Bhagavatam, the story is in the 10th canto, not in chronological order. So this is a story that relates to right after Dhritarashtra had given half of the land known as Indraprastha, which was not very fertile and was mainly jungle area. So at that time, when Pandavas had gone to Indraprastha and they had cleared and they had established Indraprastha very nicely, the Khandava forest burning incident had not yet happened. And at that time, when Pandavas were residing, and they were really taking care of their subjects, so much so that Yudhishthira was given the title of Dharmraj, because he was carrying out his duties very nicely. Now, Draupadi was the wife of all 5 brothers. So there was this topic as how all 5 brothers would have, So they had decided that when Draupadi was one of the brothers, she would, be one of the brothers at a time. And when she would be with one of the brothers, no other brother would, visit those quarters where she would be. So having decided thus, it just happened that one day Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was with Draupadi. And there was a Brahman outside the palace. He was asking, "O king, please save me." Means the robbers and, miscreants, they are taking away my wealth. And how could it be that in a kingdom, the king is not taking action? So when Arjuna heard the plea of this Brahman, he immediately, became active. And he said, "Don't worry, do not fear, I will help you. And I'll stop those robbers." Yet at the same time, when Arjuna realized that he has to go to the cabinet where all the weapons are, it happens to be in the same room where Yudhishthira Maharaj was with Draupadi. So Arjuna knocked on the door and he received Yudhishthira Maharaj's permission to enter. And Yudhishthira Maharaj saw Arjuna and he understood there must be a reason that Arjuna is coming when Yudhishthira Maharaj was with Draupadi. And he was looking at his younger brother smiling. And Arjuna immediately went to the cabinet, opened the cabinet, got his, Gandiva bow and the arrows and his armor and everything. And he immediately, paid obeisances and took leave. And he went with the Brahman and he saw that, there were some robbers who were taking away the Brahman's cows. So he immediately shot arrows and, the robbers were destroyed. Means again, they were killed and some of them ran away. And he restored back the wealth of the Brahman and gave it back to the Brahman. And Brahman was very happy. He gave blessings to Arjuna and he left for his home. Now as the vow had previously been taken by the 5 brothers, that no one else would enter the quarters, when Arjuna returned, Yudhishthira Maharaj did not consider that vow to be a serious thing. And this intervention by Arjuna to collect his armor to be a serious offense. And all the Pandavas, they embraced Arjuna for having carried out the duty because he held his brother's prestige, right? He maintained Yudhishthira Maharaj's glories in this particular case. So it so happened that even though Yudhishthira Maharaj did not take it seriously, Arjuna took it very seriously. Hare Krishna. And he said that I should now go on a year-long pilgrimage. And Yudhishthira Maharaj at that time said, no, you have not done any offense. I understand you had a purpose. Yet Arjuna said, however, my only strength is virtue and to perform my duty. And this is my virtue that provokes me to go on a year-long pilgrimage. Having thus taken such a vow, Yudhishthira Maharaj gave his blessings, he embraced his brother, and Arjuna started his pilgrimage. Now Arjuna's plan of pilgrimage was very nice, and while Arjuna was on this pilgrimage, of course, when we go to visit holy places, we of course take some gifts with us. So Yudhishthira Maharaj made sure that there were various attendants who were following Arjuna, who were with Arjuna, accompanying him, with lots of riches, so that whenever Arjuna would visit and see Brahmins at these holy places, he would be able to reward them and he would be able to give in charity some of these riches and so forth. And his journey would be a pleasant journey. So the plan was that he would be traveling around the Ganges and then taking a full round around, he would return back to Indraprastha. So as Arjuna started his journey going along the Ganges, traveling towards east, it so happened that one day he was taking bath in Ganges and he was pulled in by some force. And he was pulled in by some force and he was surprised. And Arjuna, he was very attractive, he was very handsome with curly locks of black hair on his head, very muscular body and very attractive features. And suddenly Arjuna found himself inside a big room, and there was sacred fire was burning. It was evening time. So Arjuna immediately carried out his evening rituals by making oblations in the fire. And at that time, a young maiden, she entered the quarters. And Arjuna is thinking, where am I? How come I happen to be at this place? I was taking bath and so forth. Suddenly he realized, looking at her dress, that Nagas, they have this capacity to be able to pull a living entity, to their quarters. And this is what had happened. So he asked, who are you? And how come I am here? And this girl, she identified that her name is Udupi, and she is the daughter of King Kauravya. So Ulupi was a Naga princess, and having identified, and she identified to Arjuna that I have been attracted, I felt attracted by you, by your features, and I know that you are the great archer Arjuna. So I want to become your wife. And then Arjuna said, no, I have taken this vow for a year-long pilgrimage, and I cannot have anyone else during this period. And you being a Naga princess, you know the virtue and you understand the rules and regulations. And at that time she very nicely understood that unless she provokes the goodness in Arjuna and provokes his virtuous state, she will not be able to have him. And so she reveals to Arjuna that actually this 1 year long pilgrimage and as I said, to keep your vow, that is to stay away from Draupadi. It's not for any other. And if a maiden approaches you, and I'm an unmarried girl, I'm approaching you, in this particular case, it is your duty to accept me. So by invoking his virtue, she is able to make Arjuna agree. So at that time, she gets 2 garlands, and as per the scriptural injunction, they get married. And Arjuna stays there for some time. And she wanted to have his baby. So when she conceives at that time, she says, Arjuna wants to continue his pilgrimage and takes her leave. And at that time, she brings him back to the same place. Now the rishis who were traveling with Arjuna and the brahmanas, with their mystic power, they were able to realize that, what had happened to Arjuna and that he is appearing at such and such place in the Ganges. So they went to receive Arjuna, and at that time, Lupi, she actually gave a benediction to Arjuna, saying that Arjuna will be invincible in the waters. So if he is fighting in the water, he can destroy any of the aquatics and so forth. And then Arjuna continued his journey forward. He then, near the kingdom of Kalinga, he reached a city where King Chakravahan, he was ruling. And he had a daughter, Chitrangada. So when Arjuna was, welcomed as a guest, Arjuna saw the daughter of King Chitravahan, and he felt very attracted towards her. And he expressed his desire to the king. And at that time, king became jubilant. He was like, wow, this is a Kuru prince. They were the rulers of the land at that time, who is asking, and of them, this is Arjuna, the great archer. And he was very attractive looking, as we covered earlier as well. And the king's daughter also, agreed, and they were married. And at that time, again, Arjuna stayed with her for quite some time. And then as she was, with the baby, she conceived, Arjuna, asked for the permission to continue on his pilgrimage. So continuing on his pilgrimage, it so happened that Arjuna was heading towards Prabhas. And before that, there was an area where the great sages were living, and, at that time, there were 5 lakes. And the sages identified that in these 5 lakes there are crocodiles, which was causing quite a havoc. So anyone who would enter the waters of these lakes, these crocodiles will pull them. And Arjuna looked at this as an opportunity to serve the Brahmins, right? Because devotees, they always try to be benevolently disposed toward the Brahmins. And Arjuna was a great devotee of the Lord. So he entered one of the lakes, remembering Ulupi's benediction that he would always be victorious in the waters. And it so happened that a crocodile tried to pull Arjuna, but instead of getting pulled, Arjuna pulled the crocodile out. And suddenly, what does he see? From the body of the crocodile, a beautiful maiden comes out. And she identifies that her name is Varga. She is an Apsara, and she was on her way. She was a beloved of Kuvera, the treasure of demigods. With her 4 friends, she was going, and in the way, she saw Agastya Rishi in meditation. So all these 5 Apsaras, they decided to disturb Agastya Rishi. Because again, Apsaras, they are very beautiful, and they think that they can, disturb the meditation of great sages. And they take great pride in this. Right? Vishwamitra was disturbed by Menaka. While there was a previous Apsara, she was turned into a stone statue by Vishwamitra because he became angry. So similarly, when these 5 Apsaras, they tried to lure away and disturb the meditation of the great sage Agastya, at that time, he cursed them because they were, disturbing, and crocodiles are very they disturb anyone who enters their domain. So he said, you become crocodiles, you 5 become crocodiles and stay in these 5 lakes. So as they were cursed, they immediately turned into crocodiles, and it so happened that they were, asking for forgiveness. And the sage, being very peaceful at mind, he said, okay, if you stay in these lakes, a great warrior will come and relieve you. And it just so happened that Arjuna had just relieved Varga from her curse. And Varga at that time requested Arjuna to relieve her other 4 friends. So Arjuna entered each of the other 4 lakes and pulled the crocodile out, and from the body of the crocodile, the respective Apsaras, they came out. And all the 5 Apsaras thanked Arjuna and then went on their way. Now Arjuna, when he reached Prabhas, he comes to know that Lord Balaram had promised Subhadrā in marriage to Duryodhana. So that's what his plan is. And Arjuna had previously, when he was in his Gurukul, he had heard great glories of the beauty of Subhadrā. It just so happened that Gada, a cousin of Subhadrā, had described to Arjuna in Gurukul, when he was in the Gurukul of Dronacharya, how beautiful Subhadrā is, and that her beauty is unmatched in this world, and how chaste and how she has all the feminine qualities to attract any man's mind. And at that time itself, Arjuna was, he was thinking of Subhadrā. He had not yet seen her though, but he was attracted by that description. He was mesmerized by that description. So in Prabhas, when Arjuna hears, he heads towards Dwarka. And he sends a messenger to Lord Kṛṣṇa. So Lord Kṛṣṇa, he comes out. And when he comes to meet Arjuna, Arjuna reveals his mind to Lord Kṛṣṇa. So again, it is such a big task. And of course, it is as complicated as, as difficult as getting the Shadgarbhas from the Sutaloka. So you need to have a personality on your side who is, so potent. And the only most potent personality in this whole universe is Lord Kṛṣṇa. So now Arjuna is taking help of Lord Kṛṣṇa, so he has a co-conspirator in this case. And if you look at it, means there is another story Srila Prabhupada used to tell about how, when you are not so powerful, how can you be able to achieve your target still? By taking shelter of the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And in this Kali age, you can achieve that by chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, within this story, we'll digress to show how, when you don't have the potency, by just taking proper shelter, you can achieve your goal. It just so happened, so I'm giving a short story right here, that a cloud and wind, they were in a competing mood. And the wind said to the cloud that you see that man going up the hill, I am so powerful that I can make him take off his coat. It was little chilly and the man was wearing a coat. And the wind and cloud, they were trying to contest who's more powerful. So wind blew very hard. And the harder the wind blew, the more the man clutched to his coat to keep his coat on. And then afterwards, the wind gave up and said, okay, cloud, you can try. And cloud looked at the man and he said, okay, if I rain, I don't think that would happen. So the cloud, all it did was just moved away so that the sunlight would fall on the man. And all of a sudden it was hot. And the man looked at the sun and said, okay, it's very hot. And he just took off his coat. So this is where Vivek, the intelligence kicks in and shows us that when you may not be capable, if you take shelter of a higher personality, in this case the cloud is taking shelter of sun. And it's just moving away from the path of the sun so that sun can shine nicely and the man takes off his coat. So similarly, Arjuna, recognizing his limitation, he very nicely asked for Lord Krishna's help, right? And Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe ke. So if Lord Krishna wants to protect someone who can, hurt the person, and if he wants to kill someone or hurt someone, who can protect that person? So in this case, understanding Arjuna's desire, and of course Vasudeva Devaki also wanted to give Subhadra in marriage to someone else but not Duryodhana. They were not very happy with that decision of Lord Balaram. So Lord Krishna said, okay, and he devises a plan. He tells Arjuna that his 8 months of pilgrimage is almost over, and Chaturmasya, the monsoon season, is approaching. And he suggests to Arjuna that he should take advantage. He should turn himself into a mendicant sannyasi. And then in that form he should enter Dwarka. Why? Because Lord Balaram, he is very benevolently disposed towards the Brahmanas. He likes to serve the Brahmanas. He likes to invite the Brahmanas at his home, serve them nice, prasadam and so forth. And because he wants Subhadra to receive blessings, he asks Subhadra to serve the Brahmanas. So that would be an easy way for Arjuna to see Subhadra. And so, as advised by the Lord, Arjuna, he takes the form of he gets, he lets his hair grow, his beard grow, and let those locks create, the hair locks gets created and so forth. So he looks like a mendicant. He wears the saffron clothes and with 3 danda. So as a Vaishnava sannyasi, in the dress. Shishi Gaurantai ki jai. Shishi Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So he appears like a mendicant Vaishnava sannyasi, a 3-dandi Swami. And when Brahmanas and sannyasis, they wanted to enter Dwarka, there were 3 gates. We also covered that when Sudama Brahman was entering Dwarka. And at these gates, there were soldiers and there were army troops who would check everyone to make sure, there is proper security at each of these gates. So, but they would allow the Brahmanas and the sannyasis to pass through. So Arjuna was very easily able to enter into Dwarka. And when he entered into Dwarka, what does he see? He sees 16,108 great big white palaces with gold tops, the gates made of emerald and ruby, bedecked with those jewels. And he's surprised. These are the palaces of Lord Krishna's 16,108 queens. And then Arjuna approached towards the place where all the Brahmanas' quarters were. And Lord Krishna had already arranged a nice living quarter for Arjuna, a big one with all the facilities. So Arjuna is residing there as a Vaishnava sannyasi. He's very attractive, but under the grown hair and beard, his features are hidden. And it is by Lord's mercy, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Swami, they describe that because of Lord Krishna's mercy, no one, not even Lord Balaram, could recognize Arjuna in that disguise. And Lord Balaram, seeing such a, sannyasi, he invites Arjuna to come to his, palace to have, prasadam. So at that time, as Arjuna is invited, he goes to Lord Balaram's palace, and Lord Balaram, as was told by Lord Kṛṣṇa, would engage Subhadrā in serving the Brahman so that she gets the benedictions, blessings. And Subhadrā is serving. Now when she sees this sannyasi, she doesn't find this sannyasi same as all the other sannyasis and brahmanas who had visited previously. She is saying that this sannyasi is very attractive looking. He's got locks of black curly hair. He's got very muscular body hidden inside his saffron clothes, and his eyes are very attractive and always, focused on seeing Subhadra. And Arjuna, he was astonished to see Subhadra, so much so that he could not keep his eyes off. Now, Lord Balaram completely, missed this, and he did not even recognize Arjuna even in those actions. That this is a sannyasi who has come and this sannyasi is looking directly at my sister. And this is all, as acharyas have explained, is because of Lord Krishna's, his pastime. He is causing Yogamaya to create that illusion and that effect. So again, so nicely this whole arrangement is done, and at that time, Subhadra is feeling attracted towards this sannyasi, and Arjuna is feeling attracted towards Subhadra, having seen her. So similarly, during the course of Chaturmasya, means many times, Arjuna is invited by Lord Balaram. And it just so happened that one day, Lord Kṛṣṇa, he meets Subhadra. And Subhadra reveals to Lord Kṛṣṇa that she doesn't want to get married to Duryodhana. And at that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa reveals to her that actually Arjuna is in Dwarka. And hearing this, she immediately understands that that particular sannyasi is Arjuna's disguise. So Arjuna is in disguise as this Vaishnava sannyasi, Tridandi Swami. And she immediately reveals her mind to Lord Kṛṣṇa that she is very attracted to this sannyasi and she would like to marry Arjuna. So at that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa says, okay, he will devise a plan for that. So all these activities that are going on, who is the main co-conspirator? Who is the main personality who is creating it all? It's Lord Kṛṣṇa. He's the one making things happen. And then Lord Kṛṣṇa, he approaches Arjuna and tells him that as Chaturmasya is going to finish, there is a great festival that is performed, and Subhadra and the other Yadavas, Yadus and Vishnis, they visit the temples at that time. And that is a perfect opportunity for Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra. Now, Arjuna has his armor and everything, but he doesn't have a chariot at this particular time because he entered Dwarka alone on foot. So Lord Kṛṣṇa gives him his 2 horses and his chariot. So Sugriv and another horse. So these are 2 horses who are given to Arjuna, and Arjuna cuts off his hair, gets into his original form, taking care of his beard and so forth. He appears like an Arjuna, means the way he was as a warrior Arjuna, the great archer Arjuna. And when Subhadra was taken on a chariot to this festival, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this particular festival was Jagannath Rath Yatra, the waking up of Lord Vishnu after the Chaturmasya and, going on a Rath Yatra. So that's the occasion. And as Subhadra is on this particular occasion, she suddenly sees, Arjuna on a chariot, approaching very fast towards her. And normally the occasion means when you're on a, festive moment, you don't wear armors and all that. So all the Yadavas, they were, in that festive mood. And they didn't have any armor and all. So Lord Kṛṣṇa had very nicely arranged this. And it said that within a minute, Arjuna approaches, holds Subhadra's hand and pulls her onto the chariot and is on his way. And the description is given just like a tiger from the midst of other animals quickly catches prey and leaves. So as Arjuna leaves to Subhadra, all the Yadavas, the Yadus, they immediately cry out that how could it be? And it was so fast that many of them couldn't even see that who was the warrior who just took away Subhadra. And Subhadra was dear to everyone. So all these warriors, they suddenly, cried out in anguish, and they ran to collect their armor, to get their, weapons and so forth. And suddenly somebody recognized, oh, this is Arjun. He's taking away Subhadra. And it so happened that right after that, they all gathered in Sudharma Assembly Hall. Sudharma Assembly Hall, and then the Lord Balaram is also there. And they revealed to Lord Balaram that Arjuna has just kidnapped Subhadra. Lord Balaram, hearing it, his eyes become red. Once again, he becomes so angry, and all of them are very, in this mood of anger, identifying how they're going to punish Arjun and how these gurus have taken this step to challenge the Yadavas and so forth. The Yadavas were very powerful at that time, and they were very proud of their prowess and their, fortune. So as they were saying, Lord Balaram and all the other Yadavas, they were, speaking their strong sentences, their strong words in anger. Lord Balaram notices that Lord Krishna is not participating. He's very quietly sitting. So Lord Balaram suddenly says, wait a minute. We are, getting all this angry, but let's also hear what Achyuta, Lord Krishna, has to say. And then at that time, Lord Krishna is smiling, and he comes and he pacifies Lord Balaram by his sweet words. He's saying that actually it is very right for Arjuna to have kidnapped Subhadra. Because Lord Balaram had given an argument that if Arjuna would have approached us, we would have given Subhadra to him in marriage. But Lord Krishna says that would not have been a case, because one's daughter is not, given out as gift as animal, right? And on top of that, Arjuna would not have accepted something as a gift, like in charity, because he's a Kshatriya. So from our side it would not have been proper, and from his side it would not have been proper if he had approached. And the most proper thing in this particular case was for Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra. So when Lord Krishna gives this nice argument in his sweet, smiling voice, everyone is like, okay, yeah, this is good. And Lord Balaram at this time, hearing this response, becomes very jubilant. And he immediately, sends gifts and so forth. Arjuna is invited, he's nicely married to Subhadra, and they are set on their way to Indraprastha. Now after this, it so happened that Lord Krishna, he had two great devotees in the kingdom of Mithila. And the devotees were, Shrutadev was a Brahman, he was a poor Brahman, and another one was Bahulashva, King Bahulashva. He was a descendant of King Janak. So these two devotees of the Lord, it can be said that why could they come to Dwarka and see Lord Krishna? These two devotees had taken a vow to worship their deities at home regularly. So they would not go out or would be engaged in over-endeavor. So Brahman Shrutadev would just work enough so as to maintain his family. He was a householder. And similarly, King Bahulashva was always engaged in taking care of his subjects and carrying out his duties nicely. So it so happened that once Lord Krishna, he decided to visit these two devotees of his. So he is heading towards Mithila, and before starting his journey, he asked various sages who would want to accompany him. So at that time, the sages, Devashi Narad, Krishna Dvaipanya Vyasadev, as well as Shukdev Goswami, and many other great sages, they agreed to accompany Lord Shri Krishna. And Lord Shri Krishna, gets them on his chariot, and they quickly traveled. There is also a description given by, a commentary given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He said that if these sages were to follow Lord Kṛṣṇa, it would be a very tiring journey for them. So Lord Kṛṣṇa himself, welcomed them to travel with him. And it looks like, as they were traveling, looked like sun is being surrounded by the planets. So it's a very beautiful, scenery, or a very beautiful image that comes to mind as Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is like sun, surrounded by all these great sages, going to meet his two devotees. And as they enter the kingdom of Mithila, at that time, King Bahushlava and Shuttadev, they both come and they both pay obeisances to the Lord, and they plead their request to the Lord, saying that, "Oh Lord, please visit our home." And when one is praying, he's not saying that the other one is praying while they are praying at the same time. And Lord Kṛṣṇa, he agrees. And Lord Kṛṣṇa and all the sages, they go to each one's home at the same time. Now, where have we seen Lord expanding into multiple forms? So in this particular case, Lord is present. When he's present with Shuttadev, Shuttadev is thinking he has not gone to King Bahushlava's palace. And he is just here with all the sages. And when King Bahushlava, he's looking at Lord Kṛṣṇa and all the sages, he's thinking he did not go to the Brahman's place. He's present here at my palace. So where have you seen such a pastime? Yes, Lord Kṛṣṇa is present. So that's, Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book identified that Lord Kṛṣṇa, he exists in Dwarka with his potency called Vaibhav Prakash. And that's his potency to expand. Where else has this happened? When Brahma Vimohana Leela, Lord Brahma had taken the cowherd boys and the calves. Lord Kṛṣṇa expanded, as all the cowherd boys and the calves. For a year he stayed in that expanded form. So similarly in this case. However, this is different, a little different than other pastimes. Because in this case, not just Lord Kṛṣṇa had expanded, all the sages who were accompanying him had also expanded. Now these sages, it is described, as not expanded by their own potency. They had expanded to be at two different spots at the same time because of Lord Kṛṣṇa's Vaibhav Prakash. And how could it happen? So someone can say, how could it happen that all these sages also expanded? Then the description given is that of, we know the incident of Varahadev, right? Hiranyaksh, he had taken the planet Earth, which had gone into the Netherlands in Garbhodakshai ocean, right? The earth had fallen in. And when Lord Varahadev, he appeared, he immediately picked up the earth on his tusk and he got her onto the surface. And at that time, Hiranyaksh, he challenged Lord Varahadev for a fight. And it so happened that Lord Varahadev, let the earth float. So he touched the earth and passed on his potency to the planet Earth, and Bhumi, the presiding deity, having received that potency, was able to float on the ocean waters and not sink again. So Lord can pass on his potency just by his touch. So in similar way, just by being in the company of Lord Kṛṣṇa, all these sages, they were able to expand. Because that was Lord's desire. And when Lord desires something, it happens. Not like our desire. Because man proposes, God disposes. So, all these sages are present. So when they are present at King Bahushlava's, when King Bahushlava sees all, Lord Kṛṣṇa and the sages come, at that time he immediately brings the best of the paraphernalias, he washes Lord's feet, he worships them, sprinkles the water on the head of his family members and himself to purify, and he glorifies the Lord. So it's so nicely described that how Lord is glorified. Similarly, on the Brahman, in the Brahman's house, at his house, he is seeing Lord Kṛṣṇa with all the Brahmins and sages present, and he worships them, and he washes the lotus feet of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and he's dancing with his shawl, waving his shawl around. Now again, based on their individual abilities, they are welcoming the Lordship as well as the sages and the Brahmins. And it is said that Shukadev had to go to his neighbor's house to get the mats for the Brahmins and sages to sit on. So he was very poor, he didn't have all the facilities, yet at the same time he did to the best of his abilities. And he was worshipping the Lord, and both King Bahushlava and Shukadev, they were massaging Lord's feet, keeping his feet on the chest. At that time, to Brahman Shukadev, Lord Krishna reveals that he should also, of course he had taken nice care of the lordship, but he should also give similar respect to the Brahmanas. So at that time, Lord Krishna instructs Shukadev glorifying the Brahmanas and the sages. And he says that Brahmanas who have great qualities, they are purifying to everyone. And similarly, all these sages, what to talk of, they are the devotees. So wherever they go, they turn the place into pilgrimage. And so hinting him that he should similarly worship the Brahmanas. So Shukadev, taking this hint, immediately, welcomes all the Brahmanas and the sages, washes their feet, sprinkle the water on the head as well as all the family members, and worships them. So such are the glories of the Lord, that when Lord Krishna, once again, he goes and visits any place, on this particular trip, all the places he had visited before coming to Mithila, people, they were able to see him. And Lord had, removed the curtain from their eyes, and with devotion, as people were seeing him, they were getting, purified. And so is the case of these sages. Wherever the sages, the devotees of the Lord, they visit, they purify the land, the people, and the whole atmosphere. So such are the glories of the Vaishnavas. And it is said, this is where the chapter ends, where Lord Krishna has glorified, and after staying with some time, few days, with both of his devotees, Lord Krishna, he returns back to Dwarka along with the sages. And this particular chapter, it ends with the glorification of the Vaishnavas, that Vaishnavas are par dukkha dukhi. When they see someone in distress, they become disturbed, and they always want to make sure that the other person gets the mercy of the Lord. So they freely distribute the mercy of the Lord. And Lord Krishna, in this case, he is Prem Parayan. He is love personified, right? And Lord Ramchandra is Dham Parayan. He is religion personified. So and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Kripa Parayan. He is mercy personified. So he is distributing his mercy without any discrimination. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely explained that when devotees, they go, in the case of these two devotees, they had taken the vow to stay at the same place. So Lord Krishna himself came to these devotees in Mithila. And similarly, the Vaishnavas, means again, the devotees of the Lord, they visit different places just to preach Krishna consciousness and just to request everyone, like Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya, they would go house to house, knocking on the door, and would request the householders and everyone, even the people they would meet on the street, to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so, we get purified and engage in the loving devotion service of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada, he actually also described that, even though sometimes devotees at the last moment of their life may not be able to think of the Lordship, yet at that time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful that he has given the benediction that he would manifest himself in the mind and heart of the devotees at that moment. And so, hearing this benediction, we should take to the instructions to very heart and also continue to preach the glories of the holy name, which is the perfect way in this Kali age. And continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Kanthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnavavrind ki jai, Go Premanande, Hare Hare. All glories to some devotees. Hare Krishna.